off and it's not using Wi-Fi. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. You still there?
Yes.
Okay, great. Here we go. Ready? In 3, 2. We are live. It is Thursday, May 2nd. I am your host of Left Coast Live, Dieter McBusiness, joined by Stateless Patriot of the Central Valley. We are... Oh, you were just checking out the stream. Here we are, Stat Pat, talking again about a lot of different things today. We're going to probably open up with these Israel-Gaza protests, particularly the college protests, because college protests is a subject near and dear to my heart. I grew up thinking college protesters were just punk kids, much like the baby boomer liberals and the baby boomer conservatives seem to think of current-day protesters. So I'm interested to hear how you feel about, maybe you give our audience a little summary of, your thoughts on this, what seems to me a very tired cliche coming from mainstream media about these pampered, spoiled kids like we were talking about yesterday, going out and Bill Maher's criticism. Honestly, like they're looking at the protesters as if they are just lost little kids looking for a purpose, and this is just something to do for that so that they feel less guilty about their privilege. I mean, that's basically what I've been hearing. What have you been hearing? Anything different?
I mean, yeah, that kind of sums it up. I mean, ultimately, like they have nothing to lose. Honestly, like if they're being threatened by their tuition being taken away or being kicked off campus or whatever, like they understand that, like clearly they feel like there's nowhere else to turn, like the situation
Right.
is dire. They're just desperate for change. They don't like the fact that their tax money is going over to slaughter children in Gaza. They don't like the fact that nearly 200 journalists alone in Gaza have been killed. Like you can see like protesters at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, getting up in these journalists' faces, like, "Hey, why haven't you guys said anything? Like, why won't you cover what's happening to us, like the way that we're being treated? Like, if you
Mm-hmm.
believe in the free press, why haven't you said anything about the press that's been killed in Gaza, or the ones that were forced to flee because there was no food, it wasn't safe for them, the IDF clearly wasn't taking the proper precautions to protect them or avoid hitting them, given the fact that they dropped tens of thousands of bombs probably at this point, like on Gaza alone. It's it's disgusting. Like students feel like they have no other like form of you know uh, voicing
Expressing
their
their displeasure.
yeah,
Yeah.
no other form of expression except getting the attention of the media by threatening their campuses, threatening these colleges, or at least like
Yeah.
urging them to divest from Israel and stop funding an apartheid state that is waging a genocide in Gaza, committing ethnic cleansing, displacing 2 million people, and forcing them to flee. Like, and they have nothing. There's nowhere to go. Like, it's what else is there to do other than stage a stay in? Like camp out on campus. Like like it brings eyes to the root issues.
It
It's
creates
what they
more
believe in.
division, I feel like, than anything else with this tone of resentment. I think it's all tone is what's going on. Is this just classic, like, what do you know? You're just a 20-something-year-old college kid. What do you know about
Twenty
the Middle
something.
East?
Yeah, like
And it's like,
the
or
age
even,
group that like.
yeah, well,
I'm sorry.
God,
It's the age group that almost exclusively founded this country. It's like, well, are you saying that like 20-year-olds aren't incapable of thinking for themselves? Like that clearly they were enough to become independent from Great Britain But
Yeah, they don't think like that. They just think from their own personal experience. They don't really respect their, I don't know, what's the opposite of elders? Your younglings? Your, I don't know, your
right,
youngers?
yeah,
I don't know we got to look up that.
whippersnappers.
The whippersnappers? Who have ruined everything since the good old days when we were running things? Yeah, okay. So, yeah, no, there's nothing more than baby boomer condescension, I think, in a lot of this coverage. And it's to
Exactly.
be expected now. And it's, since we've been talking, I came in, I've been working a lot on these scripted episodes, and, I've been writing and working my way up to this thesis that it really all comes down to baby boomer conservatism being the problem.
Yeah.
But the second problem, I think we'll always say that baby boomer conservatism was the primary problem, but the
Of
secondary and
course.
supporting problem is baby boomer liberalism. The response to baby boomer conservatism
Right.
is completely inadequate. I mean, the fact that Israel still has so much power, that we are with a Democratic president in Biden supporting a ultra conservative, essentially foreign, like not necessarily dictator, but he's all kinds of corrupt. And people say that, oh, the Palestinians have representation in the courts and that's this and that. My understanding is it's all for show.
Yeah.
This is not real representation. I don't know if the two-state solution works. I don't know what the answer is. All I know is that Israel's gone way too far this time, and the videos that we see online of what's really going on there, you can't argue with.
Yeah.
So here we are with
You
modern day
can't.
media. Say what you will about social media, okay? It's done a lot of bad things for our society, for sure, without question. But it's here, and it's
Yeah.
here to stay. So let's acknowledge something good that comes from social media when it happens, because it's not often. But the transparency of this situation is only made possible, I think, through people on the ground with phone cameras,
Yeah.
and that the proliferation of all of this user-made content related to this war has just exposed Israel as tyrannical.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily blame their citizens, although I don't know. I mean, it's tough not to. It's
Of
tough not
course.
to
Of
be like,
course.
you guys really like Netanyahu's your guy, and they haven't had an election in Israel since 2006. So
Right.
maybe your leadership is a problem here, guys.
Yeah.
But the thing that drives me nuts, I just can't get over this just fallback position of any criticism of Israel is somehow an expression of anti-Semitism.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that's the conflation, the strategic conflation. It's so shameless. It's kind of like what Trump does, but with more like cultural gravitas in
Right.
terms of the bully playing the victim. And so I don't know what to make of it. These college kids, though, they're in touch with it, man. They're like rising above. They don't get
Yeah.
their news from MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News. They're not
Exactly.
buying. They don't care. They don't care what Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski have to tell them, and
Yeah.
how to
Exactly.
condescend to them on at 7 o'clock East Coast every morning.
Yeah.
Give me a break. We don't need it. Why do we
Yeah.
need to listen to you? Why should we listen to you, boomers?
Hmm.
Why should we? There's this idea that we're supposed to respect our elders, right? Well,
Right.
I challenge that cultural assumption. Why?
Yeah.
Why should we respect our elders? Why? I mean, if they had done something great, if they had left us this great world that is so fair and so
Just.
functional,
Yeah.
or just functional,
Yeah.
even if it just like imagine if it like weren't the necessarily living up to our expectations, but we were still had a good healthcare system, that would be a way better world that we're living in. Imagine
kidding.
if there was some form of debt relief that got people out of this handicapping debt that you see across the country, whether it be medical debt or credit card debt or student loan debt.
Yeah.
That's a huge reason for the wealth gap.
Big time.
That's a huge reason for the wealth gap is people carrying around debt. It's like obesity. No one talks about it.
Yeah.
Why aren't we talking about those are the problems that Americans are dealing with?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't stand watching this mainstream media coverage, and I do it because, like I've told you, I just want to know what the pulse of mainstream media is and what the kind of traditional baby boomer liberals are doing and thinking.
Yeah.
And I'm just blown away by the condescension and the overtly just scripted takes.
Yeah.
And just a lot of these commentators I know are not believing what they're saying.
No, of
They're just
course.
parroting. They're just being told what to say.
It's barking orders. It's marching orders, like from up top. Like literally, um, multiple outlets, uh, and like publishers, editors, authors of various articles and whatnot. Like they're even told, like journalists as well are told that you are to negate certain terms from being used when publishing a story. You are to leave out certain key details.
Genocide.
Yeah, that's definitely one of them. Um,
Can't use genocide. You
yeah,
can't compare. And in the most recent legislation, tell me if it passed or not, but they said that you can't draw comparisons between current day Israel and Nazi Germany.
it passed in the House. It'll probably pass in the Senate,
Yeah.
and Biden will very likely sign it. Um, yeah, it's the stupidest fucking shit. Um,
See, it's
but
going to have the exact opposite effect.
yeah,
It's going to have the exact opposite effect. Now, in like urban and suburban areas, like the amount of Jew jokes that are going to be told because of this legislation, at least among my age group, is going to be prolific. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, yeah, we got, the resident victim.
yeah. Resident victims. No fucking kidding. It's yeah. Um, like I don't know how you can sit there like on your high horse and say like that you care about like the issue of Israel and Gaza, but like you're censoring your own publishings. Like you there are certain like uh tidbits and certain info that you don't allow being mentioned in various articles or stories or coverage of what's going on over there. It's so heavily watered down in these mainstream media outlets, and it's because they they're funded by Israel. They run cover for them, and they don't want the truth of what Israel has been doing in Gaza, like with these mass graves that have been found of Palestinians zip tied and summarily, ritually executed outside of hospitals in Gaza. Like you're not going to find anything about that in mainstream media, and that's like one of the most
Nope.
telltale signs of genocide. Like every genocidal campaign in history has had the discovery of mass graves. A couple years ago, Canada recently there was mass graves of I think it was thousands, if not hundreds, like maybe thousands, I believe, of native children, because these native schools that Canadian children were forced to go to adapt to Canadian society and leave behind their culture, basically like re-education. That was discovered a couple years ago. Like that, it's just indicative. It's evidence. It's indicative of a genocide. Like that's
Yeah.
it's part and parcel with it. You know.
Yeah, everyone's afraid to say it.
No, that's exactly
It shows
it.
you that it shows you just two things, and I don't know if it's scary to say it, but it's so true, and maybe it's not true. I'm open to counter arguments on this, but I mean, my father worked for a Jewish elite in Boston, like one of the biggest kind of strategic investors in the city at the time. And so I'm familiar with Jewish power in America. And I knew that they were influential. Only within the last 10 years have I become aware of how powerful they are
Hmm.
in terms of just, take your pick, man. They're per capita Jewish Americans are the most powerful Americans per capita. They're 2% of the population, and they have, check out the last names on these board of directors at a lot of these companies. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Okay? So that is one thing, is that I knew that Jewish elites in America were powerful. I didn't know they were this powerful. And secondly, I knew their commitment to their homeland was strong, but again, I didn't know it was this strong.
Right.
Like,
it's
when there's such an easy exit ramp, get rid of Netanyahu. Just put it all on him. We can start over, and we can come up with a real solution for Israel and Palestine, because whatever we've been trying for the last, at least since I've been alive, so the last 40 years, and according to my understanding of history in the 70s, it wasn't working very well then either. We have to figure this out.
Yeah.
Or we have to figure this out. This is a huge distraction.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole nother war going on in Ukraine that's upsetting the supply chain. I mean,
yeah.
Like, peace is prosperity. Peace is
No kidding.
the name of the game. Peace is the purpose. Peace is the point.
Yeah.
Right? What's the point of war? To create peace.
Yeah. So
The nature of war. The purpose of war is to serve a political peace. Right?
It's the continuation of politics by other means. Yeah.
Right. Von Clausewitz.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. No. Like. Getting people on board with it, it's like, yeah, this is how much power like the Israel lobby actually has. There's a lot of very wealthy Jewish people, and they're the heads of all sorts of industries and whatnot. And it's like you point out, like, yeah, like they have a lot of influence within society, and they care very much about the prosperity of their homeland, so to speak, in Israel. Bottom line, and it's like you make people like getting people to understand it, but like a lot of them are really hesitant because like just one step after that are the conspiracy nuts, the neo-Nazis, who point out like, yeah, that's true. They control.
Yeah, they control everything.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, like that. That's like,
they don't control everything.
Right, no kidding. Like they're the reason why.
They're huge. They're per capita though. I mean, that's what I don't hear being said.
Mm-hmm.
That is just so painfully obvious to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to a private high school that was pretty elite.
Yeah.
And of the 40 guys that we had when we first started, I mean, maybe 8 of them were Jewish.
Yeah.
Like, that's a fifth of the class when the population of the country is only 2% Jewish. It's like there's a tradition. And I tell you what it comes from is I believe that the tradition of education is so strong in that culture that it leads to really productive people and really capable people that get high-paying jobs. You got to get off to a good start in life if you're going to make good money. And if you get a good education opportunities, then you usually make more money, especially if you don't have to go into debt for those educational opportunities. So that's my explanation just as an outsider. Obviously, be interested to talk to some Jewish people. My wife happens to be Jewish, so I've got a whole spectrum here of perspectives, and I try to stay objective. I try to not be offensive. I don't want to offend anybody in my understanding of this situation, but it just seems so painfully obvious to me what's going on, and no one wants to accept it, and it's weird. We have no problem accepting that the 2020 election went to Biden, right? We got all but a third of the country is willing to accept that. 70% of the GOP.
Sure.
35% of the country,
right.
Depending on which way the wind is blowing.
Of course.
But this is like the biggest generational divide on policy that I think we've seen. I don't think we've seen a bigger, and I should probably get into the polling numbers to check it out, but it seems to me like this really is just the leftover Zionism from the greatest generation passed down to the boomers of like, we got to protect Israel. Israel is like the reparations for World War II, I feel like. The
Right.
state of Israel is like what they get for the suffering of World War II.
Yeah, and look at how they've just tarnished their project. You know, like this is like the League of what was I don't know if it was the League of Nations. The Allied powers came together. The United Nations said like, here, here's your own country, and they're just squandering it by basically doing the same thing that the Nazis did to them,
Yeah.
only to their Arab neighbors. It's like you're dehumanizing the Lebanese, the Syrians, the Palestinians, and for what? It's like again going back to like the normie thing, like trying to convince them like they're engaged. This is an ethno state. They're very
Right.
very racist, and their country is indoctrinated
It's a
from a young
theocracy.
age. Yeah, their country is indoctrinated to be this way and treat their neighbors this way, but like criticizing the actual state and the government and like the system itself, that's anti-Semitic. By that logic, criticizing Iran should be Islamophobic, or Saudi Arabia, because they're theocracies as well. Like they're very much
Yeah.
like that clearly drives their policies. Like Zionism drives Israeli policies,
Yeah.
and not
Well, that's what's scary about. I mean, so Zionism is basically just their version of American exceptionalism,
yeah, exactly.
and it invokes narcissistic superiority,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that's what
Perpetual
justifies them.
victimhood. Yeah.
That's what justifies their aggression towards others. Is, well, we got hurt. It's almost like an abusive relationship. You know, there's that cliche of those who are hurt others, and
Yes.
it just seems like, and there's actually a lot of evidence. I don't know, I should brush up on this, but at one point I knew a lot about it. There's abuse is passed down in families in their DNA, like trauma, intergenerational trauma. That's the better way of defining it because it's specific. But intergenerational trauma, you know, dad beating the kids or whatever, problems in the marriage being blamed on the kids. But anything involving like trauma on the kids, like that gets passed down and dialed into their DNA and passed down to their kids. So it takes a lot of talk
Yeah.
therapy. In many cases, it takes medication. I'm always a advocate for meditation. I think everybody should meditate. But the way I look at the Israeli government now, is that they were an abused child, and now they're an adult and think that they have the right to abuse others because they were abused.
Yeah. It's literally like generational. Take it out on the next. Take it out on who you were brought up to believe is your enemy. Take
Right.
that's literally what it comes down to. Hey Courtney, thanks for joining. Intergenerational trauma can most definitely be a whole country thing. Yeah, yeah, no kidding.
Can be a whole what?
A whole country thing.
Yeah.
You can even look at America that way too. You know, like the boomers wanted to live up to like the greatest generation. You know, and it's about like just like pleasing. Like boomers want to please their parents, and just like Gen X wanted to please like their boomer parents, and so on and so on, but didn't know how to fulfill or at the very least live up to their legacy, like because ultimately not everybody is handed the tools to, you know, or the like the educational the education like passed down from past generations to even like manage that, let alone accomplish what generations before them did, and they feel like they have to, if not create something that's just like grand and like historical, like something really really important, or something to do with like uh, um, like business or what have you, some sort of metric of success, just to uh, live up to a standard set like by their parents. You know,
Hmm.
it's
Right.
unrealistic. Realistic. So it's
I think
what
what
comes.
you're
It's a
talking
rat
about.
race. Like you're chasing a.
Let me put it into flowery terms for you that I think would resonate with cultural touch points.
Yeah.
So just like the American dream, the unspoken implicit agreement between generations for the American dream to be possible is that your generation is supposed to set things up so that your kids can have a better life. I
Yes.
mean, that's the unspoken agreement of parenting. It's kind of, and in many houses, it's the spoken agreement of parenting. We're working hard for you. It's actually, it's if you ever get to know families of immigration, it's kind of this beautiful. I don't want to say dark, but it's just reality. They're not immigrating to America for themselves. They're immigrating to America for their kids.
Yeah. Literally. Yeah.
They're moving here for their kids. Their lives suck and will always suck. They are going to have to come here and get a job waiting tables, or probably not even that, probably bar backing or cleaning dishes or cleaning something. And they're never going to have time or enough money to go get a real education. So they're going to be stuck doing that same job, making the same amount of money their whole life. Thank you.
Yeah.
And they're never going to, but what they can do is maybe give their kids a chance at
Yes.
something better.
Of course.
Maybe their kids can go to college and have an education and so forth
Yeah.
and actually attain the American dream. But the boomers
They get
never
it.
thought like that.
They
The
didn't.
boomers never made that transition because they didn't go through a world war. They went through Vietnam and they were like, well, we shouldn't have done that war. So,
Right.
we still fought a war, though. We fought a war we shouldn't have had to fight.
Yeah.
So we still got screwed up. But it's like, dude, do you know what the casualty numbers were for Vietnam?
Uh,
It's like 55,000.
that's on the American side.
Yeah.
Like, it's just true. Yeah. Yeah.
A lot
No.
of injuries, lot of trauma, a lot
Right.
of trauma. But yeah, only 55,000 dead.
Yeah, it's crazy. The immigration example is like a really, really good one because like immigrants crossing the border will literally pass off their children to complete
Yeah.
strangers as long as they know that they're going to get across the
Right.
border. Like, because ultimately, like they're not like they don't consider themselves as important. Like, I can't even imagine a boomer having that kind of sacrificial mindset, like at all when it comes to anything, like at all. So like, of course, that would be like completely foreign to them because like if they truly wanted to make the world a better place for their children, so that way their children have much better lives, then they would not be complaining about student debt being forgiven
I know.
or these
Yeah.
protests that are going on. It's like the like what should the like should this younger generation just passively accept what they're being handed?
Yeah, they say be grateful. Be grateful
Yeah.
for what you're getting. That's what the boomer message is. Be
No,
grateful you're
no.
getting anything.
Yeah, yeah. They can't they cannot seem to just fathom the fact that young people want to fight for a better world, not only for
Yeah.
themselves but for the most vulnerable.
Right.
It's because they never had to do that because like they were basically given everything, and
Yep.
it was all like baby boomers are all about themselves, you
Yep.
know.
A
Yeah,
generation of narcissistic sociopaths.
literally. Yes.
Narcissistic sociopaths. History's going to destroy them.
Yeah. No kidding.
Destroy them. It
Mhm.
was tough this summer, man. I was back on the East Coast. I was doing the country club thing with my dad. Being around all those elite East Coast country club conservative wasps, it was real. And not just the
Yeah.
wasp, but the mix too. Like It was tough, man, to just have to keep my mouth shut and be polite because we're at this like super fancy club, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I hate these people. I hate everything you stand for. But it's
Yeah.
interesting, what they
Yeah.
don't look at it. Something there's the hardest person to empathize with is a straight rich white man, right? So they don't look at politics as like something all that consequential.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the 1%ers, really the 0.1%er conservatives now. They look at it as like a cocktail party conversation
Yeah.
because no matter who's in charge, they're going to do pretty well. They might do a little bit better with a Republican or a lot better, but every president seems to pass a tax cut. Even Obama passed a tax cut.
Yeah.
The rich did really well under Obama. I
Yep.
mean, like there's no reason for them to really be all that worried,
Yeah.
no matter who's president. The
Exactly.
rich
They're
are
always
incredibly well protected. Incredibly well
exactly.
protected.
They're always going to have everything they need because they like equally wealthy people are representing them in government, in Congress, and in the Senate, and all that. It's like, of course they're going to protect you because they're sitting on a bunch of money as well, and so these older generations that like have like a lot of wealth, um, it, it it's like they have no reason to worry about who's going to be present president next. Like it doesn't matter if it's Democrat or Republican. They're both working for moneyed interests as well. Like that's ultimately what it comes down to. But how dare the Democrats do something or introduce something that might give a leg up to those making less than 40K, 50K
Right.
a year. Like that, it doesn't fucking affect you.
Right.
And even people like within those income ranges that are stupid enough to be pulled into voting for Republican, like shouldn't you be cheering that on? Like,
Yeah.
I'll never understand like those that literally like cheer against like um uh, uh or vote against their own interests.
Yes,
Like,
and that's a tough part for a lot of baby boomer liberals to get to is that they are voting against the Republicans, mostly are voting against their own socioeconomic interests. They are.
yep,
In
yep,
terms
yep.
of culture, they might not be. I don't know. It's difficult to assess that. I don't even think it really matters.
It varies, yeah.
The point is that there's no one who benefits from excessive tax cuts for corporations and billionaires other than those corporations and billionaires and their stockholders. And if
Yep.
there's an interesting statistic about stock because it's easy to get caught in like the 99%, the 1%, the 0.1% based on income inequality, okay? Let me give you a statistic that really kind of, I think, can get everybody who doesn't even own stock to understand, okay? 10% of individuals and institutions that own publicly traded stocks, okay? 10% own 90% of publicly traded stocks. So, of all the money that's out there, add up all the money, okay? All the value, 90% of it belongs to 10% of investors.
Insane.
That's 9-to-1 ratio. For
That's
every
that's
dollar
really
that the common for every dollar that the common investor makes, well, sorry, go ahead. What were you
that's
gonna say?
insane. No, that's insane to think about because if that's the case, like so many different stocks, their value is determined by very few, if not just a single person
The
in invested.
arithmetic doesn't work out. The arithmetic doesn't work out as simply as you might think.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, and there's
Because
also
the thing.
governing situations like corporate structures. more complicated than
Yeah,
just that.
cause I'm thinking like if like say like one or two people like hold like 80 to 90% of the value of a stock. Like if they aren't satisfied and they decide to
Right.
go, like then that stock just like goes
Yeah, they run the
free
company.
fall. Yeah, like that. And I'm sure that's the case for at least a few different like stocks out there, which is just fucking like insane to think about. God, like I never knew that. That's a wild fucking fact that you just
Well, there
told me.
is transparency once you're over. I think the rule is that once you get to 5% ownership of a publicly
Okay,
traded company, then you have to declare your intentions. You have to say where do you,
right.
how much of this company are you trying to buy? Are you trying to take it all the way over? And you can say, yeah, I'm trying to buy you. Here's your
Yeah,
offer.
because if you're a CEO of a company, can you basically like own your own stock, basically?
Yeah, you get paid in stock as well as
Okay.
just salary and bonuses. Yeah, the
Oh,
whole bonuses. You should do some digging sometimes if you ever want some rabbit hole about tax codes. Look into who's the guy? Oh, I can't believe I'm going to forget his name. Leo McGarry from West Wing was based on him. Secretary of Labor under Clinton. Short
oh
Jewish
man.
guy from Boston. Democracy something. He's
Hillary Clinton's. You said Hillary Clinton's Secretary
no,
of
not
Labor.
Hillary Clinton's. No, it was Bill Clinton, Secretary of
Bill
Labor. He left though. He left.
of Labor.
I think it's Robert Reich.
Robert Reich.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
Robert Reich.
I
Yeah.
like him.
So Robert Reich is brilliant,
Yeah.
and Robert Reich is someone that needs to be listened to.
Yes.
Talk about it. Talk
Big
about
time.
a knowledgeable, nerdy Jew. My God, the
Yeah.
guy is
He's very.
so intelligent.
He's very progressive. He's like.
Yeah,
He
but he does it
thinks
from an economic perspective.
big. Yep.
He does it from an economic perspective. It's not just, fight the power, like burn down the house. Like, okay, what are you going to build it up with?
Right.
It's not good enough. I mean, one thing that is somewhat intellectually respectable at American politics is that it's not good enough to just say, I'm not the other guy.
Yeah. Of
It's
course.
not good enough to say, I'm not a Republican, vote for me. That's
Yeah.
not good enough.
Of course.
You have to offer something. And what do the Democrats offer? They offer Obamacare. Awesome. Oh, hell of a win. Generational win, my man.
Yeah.
Give me a break. And, yeah, okay, it was positive. I said that to a friend recently. Her reaction was, well, at least we got something. I'm like, we had once in a generation political power. We had both houses of Congress and the presidency. We could
Yeah.
have gone
Go way farther.
big. We could have had a generational piece of legislation.
Yeah. No kidding. And it's
We
like
could have
if
had more Supreme Court justices too if you had manned up.
yeah, no kidding. Like we could have who was it?
Roe v. Wade codified.
Yeah, that and before Obama left office, the guy who
Merrick Garland.
yeah, Merrick Garland, we could have had him. Yeah, yeah. It frustrates me to no end, like the Supreme Court, like in general. Yeah, but like even right now, like they're finally starting to move like forward with reclassifying cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, which I mean it's a big move. It opens up
Right, I saw that.
funding for research and lessens the um, uh, I guess the punishment, like the sentences or in the charges or whatever, for possession and you know whatever. But it's still not like nearly where it should be. Where it should be like like full legalization and taxation, decriminalization, expunge the records of everybody that has a cannabis related charge. Yeah, it's just like it's not what anybody fucking like it asks for. Like everybody's asking like to just go full tilt boogie with it, not just like these little niche, tiny
Right.
tweaks. These this pragmatic approach. It but that's just like the Democratic Party 101.
I think what America, and we talk about it in an implicit way on here a lot. What America, hold on. What America thinks it is versus what America is, two very different things. We like to think we're all about big balls, big change, big action, right?
Yeah,
We're not.
We're not even close to that, dude.
We're not.
Oh man,
We carry a big stick with our military, don't fuck with us or we'll nuke you,
that's it. Yeah,
you know. But
that's about
like
it.
that's just being a bully. That's just being a bully for practical purposes because you don't feel like dealing with all the intricacies of foreign policy, you
No
know.
kidding. I mean,
Like it's easier
slowly
to
that's
it's easier to get what you want to just have the biggest gun in the room. Just be like, hey, we're the United States. We're gonna do what's best for us, and you're gonna like it,
yeah,
and everything's gonna revolve around us. That's just see that kind of sociopathy. I can actually not necessarily excuse, but understand and accept more easily than the domestic policy fuck ups.
sure. Yeah, yeah, because at least in that regard, like we're so like hell bent on spreading our influence worldwide that we don't even really have to focus on improving life here because like if we're perceived like worldwide, globally, like abroad, of being so bold in spreading democracy, even though it's all a facade. Like the facade is what fucking matters ultimately. And the fact that we do swing our dick around, um, we get in these foreign entanglements. And of course, like imperialism, like itself, on America's end, it is starting to change. Like we're starting to take a little bit from like China's approach, like focus a lot more diplomatically and strategically, instead of um, getting involved in these interventions. Of course, we pulled out of Afghanistan. It's a lot harder to manufacture consent about
Right.
like different things. And we use proxies instead of like get like our actual military and actual troops involved in like these like certain conflicts and whatnot. We fund who we like we fund Ukraine because they got invaded. Um, it's definitely a changing landscape, but like still like the the mites and like the show, the facade is still very much prominent. It's always going to be given. We fucking spend so goddamn much on our defense budget as it is, and we call it a defense budget, but like
No, it's
it's
an offense budget.
yeah, pretty much.
Well, George Washington said that the best off defense is a great offense.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding.
So
And like
that's in keeping with the tradition of America. And the traditions of America, Stat Pat, are what really drive American progress. Is
yes,
sticking to the traditions.
oh god, right? Sure, totally. I mean, I mean, it's to the point like it's unthinkable. Like even Bernie Sanders, like when a defense budget would get passed, would introduce an amendment just to cut it by 5, 10%, and of course it gets voted down because
Right.
like it doesn't matter that the Pentagon continuously fails its audits and it's missing like what like $9 trillion or some shit,
Right.
or the fact that like we continuously buy um, updated military equipment, and then
We don't need it.
it just all sits in various warehouses at various
Yeah.
bases,
Yeah.
and just never gets used. We got like thousands of tanks in Nevada just collecting dust or whatever the fuck. It's like it's so much waste. It's so
Yeah.
much waste. It could be better used.
Um, so the United States has around 750 military bases in at least 80 countries, and the total number of foreign sites with installations and facilities is just over 1,000. Wow, that sounds cheap to maintain. Does anyone else have that kind of burden? No.
No.
See, that's the problem is by winning World War II and winning the Cold War, we kind of became the custodians of globalistic capitalism
Yeah.
because it was like our thing. And this is the price you pay for being the bully king
Yeah.
is you end up with a greedy ruling class and they don't think about the future. They don't think about the next 20 years. They don't care.
Yeah.
They think about the next 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's exactly like the immediate future or about their re-elections. It's like everything is like a 2-year cycle, and like that's all that matters. It's not.
They're quarterlies.
There's no long term like strategic thinking about like most things. Honestly, yeah, really frustrating.
Let's see what else we want to talk about. Badges with bullies. Yeah, so this whole defund the police thing. Where do you stand on the defund the police cliche, motto,
I
marketing
mean,
tactic, whatever you want to call it?
it's a good slogan because it gets people's attention, and like you ask people about it, and most people aren't saying like, oh yeah, no, abolish the police. That's not what it means. No, I mean since the George Floyd protests and the civil rights uprising and whatnot in 2020, uh, it's always been about reallocating funds because a lot of police budgets are shocker uh, bloated.
Right.
So, like reallocating funds to police budgets to better social programs, or even like little departments that like at least operate like with the police, like associate with the police, like coordinate with police. That don't have to be police officers because you don't need to send cops to literally every situation, especially mental health emergencies, because it like
Hmm.
it, that's how people end up killed by cops for no reason, unarmed people, you know, or your family dog gets shot because oh my god, this little Boston Terrier is running at me. Better unload my gun into it. Like a lot of cops aren't fit for that kind of thing, and you
Right.
know they're already stretched thin as it is. So, um, divvying up departments would alleviate a lot of stress. Um, and at the very least, uh, passing some sort of legislation to ensure that departments have their funding go to certain things such as training, like better training, like and much longer training, because cops in America do not get like the length of time of training
Right.
that they really truly need, like especially compared
I've
to
heard
other
that.
countries.
Yep.
I think all of that can go a long way because like clearly it's been like various police departments are total shit shows. A lot of them are very corrupt. A lot of them are very racist. A lot of them have a lot of bad apples, and like a bad apple, it spoils the bunch because you have bad apples, and then like the so-called good caps that um, good cops that cover for said bad apples because it's like um, it's self-reinforcing. Like you look out for each other, or else like there's an implicit threat amongst
Yeah, the
police. Like
police
it's
code.
literally, yeah, like you don't
Yeah,
out
the
me,
brotherhood.
literally, yeah, or else an accident might happen. You never know.
It's not
It's
unlike
gross.
a gang, that has a code
Yeah,
that
yeah,
where they don't
that's
rat each other out. It's not that different from a gang. They just are the police.
literally some departments literally are gangs. Like,
Hmm.
and I mean, not even to mention the uh, the kinds of people who become cops, the the
Bullies.
racists, the bullies, the racists, the clan
They want to
members.
have a gun. They want to have power. They want to have respect, but they're not educated. It's
Yeah,
not just like I tell you what. Detective
the
work looks really hard. Detective work looks really tedious. I have a lot of respect for detectives, and I have respect for most cops in uniform. Most cops in uniform are good people, but like you're saying, all it takes is a few bad ones because then they get protected, but they're still allowed to hurt people.
Yeah.
or not serve the public's real interests. I mean, bad cops, yeah. Maybe it's only 5%. I think it's close to like 20% that are just straight up incompetent. That
Of
and
course.
more, maybe even 40%. I don't know. I'm open minded on what the percentage is, but
I think
it's
there's actually
definitely
like a statistic out there that I think 40% of cops have been. I don't know the actual statistic, but like there's a very high number of domestic violence incidents that
mm,
involves cops and their spouses. Like
right.
it's a very broad, very concerning issue. Like without a doubt.
Are you surprised?
No, not at all.
I mean, that's I think the great transition that we need to make is it's okay to talk about these things and like. Do you remember that? Let me see if I can find it. There was that New York, like, let me see, NYC police union head unhinged or something. Let me see if I can find it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, here we go.
the head of the police union in New York,
Yeah, hold on, here we go. This is hilarious. Let's do this.
absolute lunatic.
This guy is fantastic. He is a wonderful. Well, this might not be exactly the one, but this one looks like a good one. Stand by. Yeah, there we go. Here we go.
Good afternoon. 375 million interactions with the public every year. 375 million interactions. Overwhelmingly positive responses. Overwhelmingly positive responses.
Who cares?
But I read in the papers all week, we all read in the papers, that in the black community, mothers are worried about their children getting home from school without being killed by a cop. What world are we living in? That doesn't happen. It does not happen. I am not Derek Chauvin. They are not him. He killed someone. We didn't. We are restrained. And you know what? I'm saying this to all the cops here. Because you know what? Everybody's trying to shame us. The legislators, the press, everybody's trying to shame us into being embarrassed about our profession. Well, you know what? This isn't stained by someone in Minneapolis. It's still got a shine on it. And so do theirs. So do theirs. Stop treating us like
The entitlement
Yeah,
of the angry white man.
yeah.
The angry white man, dude. There's nothing like it. The only person in American society that is allowed to get angry in public and still maintain respect from his audience is
Yep.
the straight white man.
That's exactly it. Like I don't know what it is. Like can like I think most male New Yorkers can become actors because this guy's kind of he's nailing a role right now. Like that's how
Well, he feels
that's
like
how it's
he's in a
coming.
TV show.
Yeah, that's
He's
how
been
it
thinking about
comes
this
off.
for a few days. He's been thinking about this speech for a few days.
Yeah,
us like animals and thugs and start treating us with some respect.
sure.
That's what we're here today to say.
When do we not?
We've been left out of the conversation. We've been vilified. It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Yeah, until it gets called
Trying
in
to
by
make us
the
embarrassed
mayor
of our
to crack
profession.
some skulls in college campuses.
375 million interactions.
375 million interactions. Keep saying that.
Overwhelmingly positive.
Overwhelmingly, like no specificity on those statistics. I don't care if it's 80, 20, 90, 10, 95, 5, dude. I don't care what those interactions mean. Like, you think you're going to keep harping on one statistic and get me to think that you have done an objective analysis of your department? I mean, your union endorsed Trump publicly. How do you think the
Yeah.
public's going to
Like,
react to you?
Like,
How do you
does
think
that
the
warrant
educated
respect?
people of New York and the hardworking people of New York, because I love that city, how do you think New Yorkers are going to respond when your police union endorses Trump?
no kidding.
Give me a break,
let alone
dude.
Eric Adams, a complete fucking clown who just
Yeah.
sent these fucking thugs to the campuses
Yeah,
in
in
New York
Columbia.
City. Yeah,
Yeah.
to fucking start shit with the protesters, the peaceful
I know.
protesters who weren't doing anything, and they had to go there and escalate. You know, they wanted
That's
to go in
what
there
they
and
do.
crack some skulls. Yeah,
Hey, man,
yeah.
it's like
How
that
does
attitude.
that
It's the
warrant
same.
respect?
It's the same attitude that you have about the weapons, right? Why do we have the weapons if we're not going to use them? Why do we have the cops with all these fancy weapons
another police
if we're
department
not going to use them?
with a bloated budget? They're like their own little fucking mini military, basically. They get so
Yeah.
so
Oh, the
much
militarization of
money out the
police. We
budget.
should. I'm gonna do some digging on the militarization of police because it's a fun topic.
Oh yeah.
Nobody talks about all the police officers that were killed in the last week in the United States of America, and there were a number of them. We don't condone Minneapolis. We roundly reject what he did as disgusting. It's disgusting. It's not what we do. It's not what police officers do. Our legislators abandoned us. The press is vilifying
Give
us.
me a break.
Well, you know what, guys?
They're like the most well-funded
I'm
police
proud to be a
department in
cop,
the country.
and I'm going to continue to be proud to be a cop until the day I retire. And that's all I have to say.
Oh, you're so tough. That is so wonderful, man. You are so tough. Quintessential, classic New York badge right there. The New York badge, man.
Yeah.
Way to be tough and just, completely reestablish your authority by getting angry, you fucking idiot. How the hell do you think that people are going to respond to that? Who is your PR agent? Like, people say PR people don't need to exist. Show them that video and tell me that dude should not have talked to a PR person before he got in front of that microphone.
Yeah.
Give me a break. I mean, you don't know what you're doing. Public communication needs to be done by experienced, trained, or just fundamentally intelligent and thoughtful people.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not for just some tough guy cop to get up and lecture us about how we're supposed to feel toward him. Especially
exactly.
a black mother raising her kid in the hood.
Yeah.
I mean, he opens up with that, and he's like, well,
Yeah,
your response should be, why does she feel that way? I want to go talk to this woman right now.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell happened to make her feel this way? That is a progressive attitude. How can we make it better? We are calling
Yeah.
it progress after all, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could be the fact that one of your cops, one of your police officers, shot and killed her son who was unarmed, or her husband who was unarmed, minding his own business, or one of your police officers said they felt threatened or thought they saw a gun when no weapon was present whatsoever.
Or they heard about,
maybe
his reputation. Isn't
Yeah.
it? It's not like, they call, when you do it to minorities, it's called stereotyping when you do it to a fault, right? But when you
Yeah.
do it about a category of occupation, it is reputation. Is it not? Sales guys, right, have busy mouths and are transactional by nature or nurture, but it's usually nature. Okay? Like, that is who they are. That is what they do. Don't expect people to have, unless they're very sophisticated and enlightened people, don't expect them to have adapted perspectives when talking about different things and being able to compartmentalize their attitude towards their profession, especially when they're successful,
Yeah.
versus their attitude towards relationships.
Yeah.
And so, this guy, like, in terms of, you asked earlier what kind of people want to be cops. They want to have power, respect,
Yeah.
and what else? Power, respect, and good money. Cops make good money, especially if you do all that overtime.
Right.
You can look up how much your cop that pulled you over made last year. And the last time I did that was a long time ago because I've been, knock on wood, haven't been pulled over in a really long time.
Yeah.
But the last time I got a ticket and looked up the cop at Beverly Hills, maybe 10 years ago, and he had made 227 grand, as I recall, in 1 year.
Crap, dude,
And,
that's
yep,
insane. I mean, especially
yep.
down in Beverly Hills, like it's a very
And
um,
over half of that was overtime. More than half of that was overtime. The guy just cranks out parking tickets
that's
and
insane.
and auto
Well,
tickets.
so you're saying that cops do have incentive to, fill a quota. Well, it's not exactly a quota as much as it is just
Well, they have incentive to
lining their
work.
own pockets. Yeah, like
They
yeah,
have incentive to work.
yeah,
They're just like, I'm sure most of them are good people. Like,
sure,
whatever. I'm willing to make that concession. I don't care. The problem is that we're not recognizing how much power these people have in our society.
yeah, and they don't even realize it either. Like they're not trained well enough to handle various pressures because there's a lot of different pressures that come with the job to begin with, and if like they're not being like fully fleshed out and addressed, and so that you're mentally prepared and ready like at all
Right.
points to adapt to these pressures and like not only address them or acknowledge them but accommodate them and approach it all the right way, then like yeah, you're going to have this distrust. You're going to have the media on your back because mistakes happen or uh, people die and there goes reputation and
Yep.
like especially like when your budgets are so over bloated to begin with,
Yeah.
the fact that like it's not being used on like extra training to begin with, like that's a problem and it should be addressed like that.
So the perfect counterpoint to that guy's speech would have been, how much money did you get last year? Yeah, what percentage of those overwhelmingly 375 million interactions, what percentage of them were perfect? You know?
Right.
Okay? Because for that amount of money, I'm not willing to accept anything less than 99%. Because you're getting all the money you need and 10 times more. Like, you're getting
Yeah.
so many weapons. Like, you can see it in the body language too when they break out the riot gear and they break out the big guns. They're so pumped. Oh, nice! I get to use my big gun now. And
Yeah.
it's, I talk about it in my three false gods of conservative citizenry. It's the framers / Constitution, the unregulated free market, and the uniform. This is the uniform. It's a false god of conservative culture. And guess what? Most of these cops are conservative. Like, they believe in, they want to have power. They don't want anyone to have they don't want to have consequences because they know that they might get misjudged. They know that if they make a mistake or whatever, they might ruin their lives. It's not necessarily that they're risking their lives, like they might die doing what they do. I don't think that's the real fear of being a cop, insofar that there is a fear of being a cop. I'm sure there is. Let's be
course.
empathetic. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know. Yeah, the fear of dying as a cop, if you're working in certain parts of the country, yes, I could see that. I actually think what's more likely now is that there's a fear that you're going to get put into some situation where you have to use your gun and you're going to be held to account for how you used it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's the anxiety. So all that does is produce more anxiety when that moment arrives. And with the body cam footage now, and that is required in some states and not others, and like
Right.
that's a whole mess. Like they can turn it off in some situations. Like it's not perfect, and it never will be, but it should be a lot better than it is, my man.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? This tension doesn't exist because of the population, thinking you're trash by nature. It's
Yeah.
because of your reputation.
Right.
Those three, Boston cops. It was interesting. Growing up in Massachusetts, the Boston cops weren't so bad because it was usually they were just directions on how to get from point A to point B, and whatever, just making sure people behave themselves, walking around the city. People usually do whatever, but the state cops were just all kinds of attitude. And
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know why. I mean, I guess it's because they had more authority. Their jurisdiction was the entire state. So if anything went down and there were multiple cops involved, then they would be in charge. I don't know where that came from, but there is that weird entitlement, and it comes in different shapes, sizes, and colors depending on the police department that you're working for. But let's get honest with it. Like, let's get real about it. It's a thing. Having that gun and badge and protection and that money and those benefits, because those are some damn good benefits that cops and their families enjoy, then they should be held to a very high standard.
Exactly.
Overwhelmingly positive. That's not good enough. Overwhelmingly positive.
Like,
That's not
even
good enough.
Like if it's 99% that way, that 1% is a failure, and it should be
Right.
acknowledged as such. Like, period.
It should be a dispassionate. I mean, the best chief of police that most people regard in today that's like a famous police personality is Bill Bratton. Started in Boston, went to New York after 9/11, went to L.A. Like, he's like, if there were ever a celebrity police officer in American history, this is the guy. And he's very dispassionate about when he talks. And he's just like, these are the statistics, and these are the decisions. Yes, we made a mistake here. This is what we learned from this, yada, yada, yada. And he's clearly very, like, and it's just like, it's like a PowerPoint slideshow.
Yeah,
Like, that's what it should be.
articulation.
It should just be a basic PowerPoint slide. We demand respect. No. You
Right.
shut up like one of your fellow mates. Yeah, I was in a Minneapolis police department, but this was only the one that was caught on camera, homie.
Okay.
This was only the one that was caught on camera. How many more times has this happened when there's not a camera around? Probably
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, given
Probably
how many,
a lot.
given how many like instances we have of like this same kind of thing happening on camera, like unarmed black males being riddled with bullets. You know, like, how many times did that actually happen? And then the cops cover it up and they change the story, because even the George Floyd thing, excuse me, wasn't portrayed accurately when the initial press release went out. It wasn't until whoever the girl was that filmed posted that video online that showed it
Right.
exactly what happened.
Yep.
Then the story got changed because
Yep.
the cops write the reports. They can say
That's right.
anything they want. Period.
Right.
And so it's like, no wonder there's been a big distrust of police within the past 4 or 5 years. It should be a no fucking brainer, you know?
Yeah, and so many of them. I mean, just I want to say, I'll keep saying most of them are probably good people, but come on, inside probably every single one of them is an inner bully. Like, you kind of have to be, don't you?
Sure.
Like, in order to like, you're
There's an assertiveness.
you have
to
to
it.
you have to turn yourself into a weapon in certain circumstances. You have to be trained and prepared to do that.
Yeah.
So that means you have to be prepared to take life.
Right.
Only not necessarily a bully can take life, but only someone who is aware of the bully instinct
Yeah.
can take life. You have to tap into that in order to kill someone.
No, of
I think.
course.
I
Like,
speculate, but I think I'm right.
Yeah, not to mention, like, putting yourself in that mindset, because, like, you never know, and it's such an unpredictable thing, and it takes, like I said, it takes a lot more training, like, to actually, like, manage that instinct, that feeling, that potential, that possible scenario. You know, it's not an easy thing to navigate for fucking anyone. You know, and
Yeah.
it's no wonder, like, just like, you can't have knee-jerk reactions in an occupation like that, because it could cost innocent fucking lives. You know,
Yeah.
and then like, hopefully you're held accountable for it because you fucked up.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, we've been going for about an hour and 10. Anything else you want to cover?
That's pretty much it. I'm still very much enjoying the would you rather encounter a bear or a man you don't know in the woods discourse that's just flooding my fucking feeds.
Yeah, I gotta check more of that out. I want to hear some women. I want to hear some women explain that.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
Fascinating.
I think I might actually dedicate a full video to it during my free time this weekend.
You should.
So, because there's a lot, like not only the memes, but the talking points that are being espoused, and there's a lot of good points that women are making about it.
Yeah, we'll
it's
have to
very
talk.
interesting.
I mean, I feel like for a variety of reasons,
Of
but
course.
gender relations definitely gets a little brushed under the bed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
In this country, there's a lot of understandable gender resentment that exists in our society that
and
we need to
this
talk about.
and this discourse is exacerbating that. It's really like just taking the mask off just by a lot of men's reaction to it. It can be summarized like this: there are two kinds of men in this world: the men who understand why women choose the bear, and the men who are the reason why women choose the bear. And that like summarizes
Sure.
it. You know,
I mean, is the man empathetic or not?
yeah, it's
I mean, it's a basic
it's,
level. It's a basic thing, dude. Like,
it
let's
really
just be real
fucking
about it.
is,
Like,
but a lot
can
of
you get raped? And the answer
my
is
God,
like, yeah.
no.
Well, you could get raped by another dude, but that's not likely.
Literally like oh my god, it's so fucking simple, but just some men just like there's like a wall in between certain synapses in their fucking brain that's just preventing them from understanding that like the worst a bear could do is kill you. A man could do a whole lot more things to you and also kill
And
you.
then
It's like
kill you. Yeah.
God, like yeah, it's been very interesting. So
Nice.
I,
Well, maybe
I,
we'll talk about that more when we for next
yeah,
time.
I'm probably very likely gonna use whatever free time I have, like write up a script, give collect examples and shit, and
Yeah, you should,
yeah,
man. You should.
yeah,
Absolutely. All right. Well, this is the Left Coast Live. Thank you for watching, Left Coasters. For Stateless Patriot, we are reminding you that you don't get change in America by asking nicely.
that's right. Everybody have a good night. Thanks for tuning in. The 4 or 5 of you, yeah, you guys have a good night.
And I'm out.